um, good with doing that. All right. So welcome everyone. I'm really happy that you are joining us today. Today we are talking about preparing for and taking the exams that are necessary for credential program applicants. And these sometimes can be daunting because there's a lot of information and different exams and different kind of possibilities apply to different people. So we're holding this this informational session to make sure that you have the kinds of information that you'll need moving forward as you prepare for or are in the process of applying to credential programs. So this is part of EDUCAUR's information and critical education sessions. So I just want to point to some of the other sessions we have upcoming that are very exciting. Next week, we have a critical education session on celebrating our languages in the classroom, and we'll talk about translanguaging, and that will be really exciting. That will be led by our credential student, Puerta Ambassador Jennifer Silva. So that will be really great next week. And then in the last 3 weeks of April, we have a celebration of teaching, which will include quite a number of events. There will be 9 total. And so some of those include an ethnic studies and K through 12 classroom session, which I think will be really exciting, and also info sessions for future bilingual and future STEM educators, either separately or together, depending on what the subject area is, in addition to the bilingual authorization. And then our last info session of the semester will be Get Teaching Experience at SSU. And that will be on Thursday, May 6th from 12 to 1. Let's see. Let me scoot on over here. So today, Marisela Ibarra is joining us as a student services coordinator in the School of Education here at SSU. And hopefully Dr. Suzanne O'Keefe will be joining us in a little bit. So I'm actually going to exit the slideshow now and give us a chance to talk and ask questions that are going to be important to us in thinking about what we need to do as we apply for the credential. And I see we have some more people that have joined us. Dr. O'Keefe, thank you so much for being here. Really glad to see you. And I'll go ahead and make you a co-host. So I think you said you'd have something to share.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see in the chat, the meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on EDUCAUR's website shortly, so that it'll be available to you for future reference, or you can point your friends and classmates to it so that they have access to it. And then also I see that Arturo has joined us. So welcome, really glad to see you here. And Andre has joined us as well. So really happy that everyone's here with us today. All right. And then I'm not sure, Maricela and Suzanne, how you would like to proceed. If you'd like to start with Suzanne's presentation and then.
Maybe I can start, and then I think it'll be a nice segue to Suzanne's presentation. Okay. Just because the exams, those are the questions that come up, and as the student services coordinator, though, all of those questions are kind of sent our way, right? Okay. So first of all, I know that a couple of you are in the English waiver program. Is anyone else, or Andre, I think you're in the credential program already, right?
Yeah, okay. I was gonna wait to introduce myself. I didn't know when. My name is Andre Beard. I graduated from Sonoma State with my bachelor's in English. I am in the credential program right now. I haven't currently taken the CBEST, but I was a part of the waiver. I was in Professor Stone's class, and it helped me grab English education and form, how to form curriculum. So I think that's what the classes is about. And I'm happy I didn't have to take the CSET. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yes, yes. So there, for those of you, who are kind of getting their feet wet and learning about the requirements, the exams are probably the biggest hurdle that credential candidates have to go through. There's a lot of hoops that you have to go through. And our job in the credentials office is try to make that as easy as possible for you, because, once you get through that, it's like easy peasy, and a lot of the candidates that have finished the program come back to us and say, thank you so much for walking me through this. Now I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that, other universities don't require at the beginning. So, and I want to start by saying that these things, the requirements are not something that School of Education just came up with. These are requirements that are mandated by the state of California. And so we have to follow a lot of guidelines and procedures that are mandated by them. So we want to make sure that we are following procedures and guidelines, and we want to make sure that you guys are adequately prepared to start the program, and just to show the state that you are ready, and a lot of us, I truly do not believe that exams make up who you are and your ability to be able to teach, but these are just requirements that the state mandates, right? So subject matter competency is where you show that you are able to teach the subject that you're going to be teaching. So regardless of the credential that you go into the credential program, there are very specific exams that are mandated. So subject matter competency, unless you are in a subject matter waiver program, I know that a couple of you are, you do not have to take the CSET. For those of you or anyone who is not in a waiver program, then the CSET in the subject area that they will be teaching will be required. For basic skills, the state wants to know that you know your basic math, reading, and writing. And so for the most part, students take the CBEST exam. There are other options, for you to cover the requirement, like SAT, ACT, AP exams. Maybe if you are going into multiple subject or special education and you have to take the CSET, multiple subject, if you add the writing skills, then you can bypass the CBEST exam. But regardless, the exams are difficult, and we find, that a lot of our students struggle. And unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do to say, well, you don't have to take the exams. You are ready. This is something that is mandated by the state. And so luckily, we have a program, and Dr. O'Keefe has been doing a really excellent job in supporting students in getting the resources that are needed so that you can pass the CSET, pass the CBEST, and then be ready to start or move on with your credential program. So with this, and unless there are any questions, I'll pass it on to Dr. O'Keefe.
Thank you, Maricela. That was great.
Thank you, Maricela. I appreciate it. And hello to everyone. It's great to see you. Hi, Dr. Leduc. How are you? It's fantastic. Hi, Andre. It's really nice to see all of you. And I'm going to talk about, as Maricela said, there's some great resources that Puerta is supporting for helping you pass the CBEST and CSET. And I see that some of you are already taking advantage of some of those resources. So I recognize your names, and I'm really glad to see that. So I just want to give you a little bit of background. I am a faculty in the special education department, and the reason why I wanted to work with Puerta on this is because I am not a traditional test taker. I am not one of those people that can easily take a multiple choice exam and pass. And as Maricela said, this is not an indication of what type of teacher you're going to be. Taking a multiple choice exam is a skill. And it's not necessarily a skill that you need in life, but it is a skill that is going to open some doors. And so in this case, it opens the door to allow you to get your full credential. And so we are really passionate about giving you as many opportunities as possible to practice not only the content on these exams, but learn how to take a multiple choice exam, because again, that's a completely different skill than even just understanding the content. So I'm going to show you some resources, and I'm going to share my screen right now. And so One of the best resources we have, and just a place where you're going to find the best information, is our CSET and CBEST support Puerta page. And so this page is constantly being updated. So we're kind of moving towards the middle of our spring semester. A lot of our workshops have already taken place, but I'm going to be working with the leads on the Puerta grant to start to develop some more workshops moving forward. And so this is not only constantly updated, but we also reach out to students and we let them know when our workshops are going to be coming up again, and whatever resources we have. And so one of the resources that we get a lot of really positive feedback on are these interactive CSET workshops. And so right now we're doing them via Zoom, but in kind of normal times, we actually do them on campus. And what I love about them is they really are interactive, because you are working with an instructor who has a lot of knowledge in that specific field, and it's broken down into content area. And then we look over CSET questions, actual CSET questions that are I did a lot of research on this and found like the questions that are most helpful for passing this exam. And actually people have come back from taking the exam and said, I've seen some of these exact same questions on the actual exam. So we really see that it's very useful. And so we have them up on the screen, and then we give you a chance to collaborate with your peers in person. We have these alphabet cards where you hold up your answer, let us know what you're thinking. On Zoom, you put your answer in the chat, and then we talk about it. And I say, why would you pick A? Why do you think that's the answer? And so people kind of talk about their thought process. We unpack it, and then we show the answer with lots of visuals. Sometimes there's videos, and then we really talk through it. So it's not just this, okay, the answer is A or B, let's move on. We really unpack it and say, okay, well, if it's A, then why isn't it C? Because C kind of seems like it could work too. So they're a lot of fun. They're always on Saturdays from 10 to 12:30. And again, you'll just see that the different content areas are there. We will be doing more of these moving forward, and again, we're going to be getting those up and running pretty soon. The other thing that I'm pretty excited about is we have a new resource called 240 Tutoring, and this is an asynchronous study guide program that we have a subscription to. So it's completely free to our Sonoma State students. Folks that are coming into the program are currently in the program. And although the Puerta grant does pay for it, and so kind of the stipulations of us signing you up is that we really ask you that if you are going to sign up, just please use the resource so that we're not taking a space for somebody that would actually be using it. And this is a great resource because it has practice exams for the CSET in multiple subject and single subject, the CBEST in reading, math, and writing, and then it also has the RECA exam, so kind of all the exams that you'd be taking through some of these programs. And I just want to pop in here and just show you what it looks like. And so you would have access to all the exams, regardless of what program you're in. And so you can really drive the ship here. So if you are in the multiple subject, or I'm sorry, if you're in the single subject program and you want to be a history teacher, so you would go to the CSET Social Science Subtest 1, and then there's 2 and 3. And so you would jump in there, and every one of these programs, these study guides, are kind of set up the same way. So they're breaking down the content into kind of manageable chunks. So you'll see that, for this one, it's ancient civilizations, medieval and early modern times, and so on and so forth. And for each of these chunks, they have the content that you'll be working with. So sometimes it's just a little bit of reading, and then you'll see a lot of videos in here. You'll click on, you'll watch the videos, and you'll see you'll be working through all these different areas. But then they also have flashcards. And so one of the things we know about the CSET and the CBEST is that vocabulary is incredibly important. So the more vocabulary that you can go in understanding, the better off you are on being able to pass. And so you can practice your vocabulary here, so it's really helpful. And then the other thing is that they have these practice quizzes. The students that have used this resource say these practice exams have been probably the most helpful. And the reason being is because they will give you your score at the end, but they're going to really target areas where you need to work on. So specifically, if you're doing this particular exam and it comes out that maybe you need a little bit more support in ancient civilizations, you'll know that by the end, and then you can target your studying to the exact places that you need. And so that's an example for single subject, but what our most popular programs that we support are the multiple subject and the special education. And so we have the multiple subjects right here, and it's the same thing. So the first subtest is going to be history, which is on top, and then the second part of it is going to be, where are you here? You can go through all these, and then there's a language arts. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, foundations of ELA. So then you can go through and you can do the ELA portion as well. This is completely asynchronous. So you pop in here and you do this when it works for you. What works best for folks is that they set a time, 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week, and they specifically have a time that they work on this and they kind of tick it away. You have a subscription to this program for 2 months when you sign up for us. And at the end of the 2 months, if you feel like you need more time, you would just email me and I can extend that time. So it really is at your own pace. And typically one study guide takes about 1 to 2 months to go through. So we can certainly accommodate you if you need more support. And so the same thing with the CBEST. And so you can pop in and they have all of the content that you'd be working in, and each of these little chunked areas you're going to find quizzes and flashcards and content. So it really is a very unique tool. It's very, very user-friendly, and it's really, again, when you start taking these exams and going through the content, it's going to target areas that you're really good at, and it's going to target areas that you're going to need to work on. And in my experience, that's one of the best pieces of information that you can have when you are going into an exam, because you can be really confident on where your strengths are and where you want to brush up on before you take this exam. The other pieces that we have here is I'm continuously working with other CSUs and other resources in the area, and I'm finding free resources and online resources and all sorts of study guides and places that you can go either virtually or in person to help you to pass these exams. And so this is also included on this particular web page. I'm constantly updating it again. We are, and they're very specific. We'll tell you exactly where to go, exactly who you need to contact to take advantage of these resources. Now, something I don't have up here that's kind of like I keep in my sleeve, when we have folks that have taken these exams and maybe struggle in a specific area, so maybe you've taken the CBEST and you're struggling in writing or a specific area of math, then we know that we have resources on campus that will allow you to have one-on-one tutoring specifically in your area of need. So, if you know going into an exam that maybe, history is not your strength or maybe math is not your strength, we have resources on campus, multiple resources that will give you either small group tutoring or one-on-one tutoring specifically to support you in those areas. So if this is what this is more of like the universal support that we provide. And then if the universal support is not enough, we have more individualized support that we can really target those areas and we can help you pass those exams. And the whole idea is that you really just stay in contact with us, stay in contact with me, let us know your needs, take advantage of these resources, and we'll help you get through it. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Andre. And so one of the things I'll do, I'll just go ahead and I can put my email in the chat. And if anybody needs, if anyone has any questions or needs any support, I'm more than happy to work with you individually. And I even have done, and I'm happy to do one-on-one advising if you specifically come in and you say, I know that there's going to be an area that I really, really need to work on. So I'm happy to help out in any way I can. Again, I completely understand what it feels like to have these exams be that, I don't want to say an obstacle, but, you know, something that needs to happen for you to be furthered on in life. And I just, you know, I want to reassure you that you're absolutely going to have the best support that you would need to be able to pass these exams at Sonoma State if you take advantage of them. Okay, and I went ahead and I put my details in the chat, so I'm happy, again, to support anyone who needs any help. And I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was really helpful. Yeah, so good to know that those are there and that there's so many different, you know, ways to prepare, the workshops and the 240 tutoring, and then the extra tutoring that you mentioned as, you know, kind of for that extra push that sometimes we need to really focus on some of these areas. So I know several of you are in subject matter waiver programs. And I'm not sure about everyone. So I just wanted to see if there are questions that might be specifically about the CSET, which allows you to teach in a particular subject area or for elementary, or if there are questions about the CBEST, which everyone pretty much would take, except for Marisela mentioned that there are a few other options. So, you know, just seeing what questions you might have for those of you who are kind of coming up on these exam, you know, expectations as you start to apply.
Is the WIC test or something different than this? Because I remember taking one class and then we kind of thought it would, if we got a high enough grade, we wouldn't have to take it. But I think something went wrong with like what's going on in COVID, and I don't quite understand what the situation is.
Oh, okay.
That's a great question. Yeah, great question. The WEP does not waive the CBEST requirement or the basic skills requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just was trying to see if that was something different. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I think they tried. Sorry, Teresa, but I think they tried to have that waive the basic skills requirement, but like you said, but it just didn't work.
Mm.
Okay. Marisela, it's true though that the SAT and the ACT, they waived that requirement, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, they have to have a certain score within SAT or ACT. So, you know, if candidates believe if they took the SAT or ACT, you know, particularly if you were a first-time freshman at the university, you had to take one of those exams. So we can take a look at your report to see what the scores were, and we can let you know whether or not you need to have it. But everything is listed on the website as to what the minimum score requirements are. But it is acceptable.
Okay, I'm actually a transfer student, so I don't think that'll apply to me.
Were you talking about the WEP?
Well, it was, I thought it was WEP something. It was W something. The class was Libs
Right.
327.
Okay, yeah, so the WIC, those are writing intensive courses that you can take in place of taking the WEPT, which is the writing, I don't remember what that stands for, but it's the writing
Written
exam.
English proficiency test.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, so that is an exam that's in place through the university and CSU as part of a graduation requirement. And then the WIC courses, such as the liberal studies course that you were mentioning, have been put in place so you don't have to take the WEPT. You can take the course instead. And those are the general guidelines. And then recently, the news has been released that students are not being required to pass the WEPT for certain semesters because of COVID. So I know I've seen that information around, but I'm not an expert on it, so I don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see that was a different test than these.
Okay. Yes. They are. It is different, and it's for a different purpose. Yeah.
So the WEP is a test that everyone has to take, and it's a writing test, just to see if you can write at the fluency of a college student to make sure that you can, I guess, write at the level that they want. But it is different than the CBEST and CSET. They had these writing intensive course. I took the WEP and I was in a writing intensive course. And if you took the course, you didn't have to take the WEP. In the writing intensive course, just step by step told you how to write an essay in general.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Any other questions about the CBEST or the CSET, or perhaps maybe the difference between if some of you are multiple subject, planning on teaching elementary versus what it is to take the CSET if you're going to be teaching at the middle or high school level, and generally a single CSET exam. Arturo.
For me, I've started taking the CSETs, but I didn't know about the 240 tutoring. So I'm gonna reach out for that because that's something I'm working on just doing. It's just more been finding a date for the CSET. That's more of the challenge than if anything. I've already had it been canceled twice, so yeah, it's been tricky for me. But I didn't know about the tutoring, so I'm gonna reach out for that. So thank you.
Please do, Arturo, please do. And something to know is that they're typically the tests are about 1 or 2 months out, which is the perfect time to get set up with 240. So I think you're in good shape. Just continue to try to get your tests scheduled, and then I could literally have your resources to you, by the time I press send. So it's not this arduous process. Like, you tell me you're interested and I sign you up, and it's immediate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And did we already discuss, because the 240 tutoring is a good resource that I use. Did we already discuss, like, I believe they send out emails if you wanted to come to like an actual session live to get help. So the 240 is asynchronously, but you can get help live with people too.
Andre, thanks so much for bringing that up. So this is kind of a new thing that's happening, and it was an organic thing that happened because one of the students that was studying on his or her own said, hey, reached out. So we have an advisor who kind of keeps an eye on everybody and will send you an email saying, hey, I saw that, maybe you weren't active this week. Is there anything you need? Can I help you? So it's not punitive. It's really more encouragement. Or, hey, I see you've been really active. Great job. And so somebody had reached out to our advisor and said, hey, I would love to study with other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. And so this organic kind of people getting together and holding each other accountable to be able to say, let's get on and let's study together. One of the best ways to prepare for these exams. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Andre. It's one of those organic things that just came from this resource. And so we're really so impressed with the level of work and dedication that our students are just committed to. And it's really helping other people who, sometimes it's hard to be proactive and sit down and make yourself study. And so that accountability really helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so often, right, we learn in community, we learn with one another, right? I mean, in class, we're talking and having discussion and teaching, is very much this interactive thing, but then taking a multiple choice test, as you've talked about, Suzanne, is right. It's, this thing that you have to do on your own, and it's high stress. So preparing for it, at least in community, can be a really good intervention and kind of take out some of the stress that, these high stakes multiple choice exams, fill us with. So thank you. That's really great.
I just wanted to add that, so I'm Asia Leduc. I'm faculty in the School of Education, working primarily with the multiple subject teaching credential program. And so we also are trying to gather information from our candidates as to what worked for them. And so we get lots of positive feedback about the CBEST CSEP support through Puerta that Dr. O'Keefe was just mentioning, the synchronous workshops, and as well as the 240 tutoring, which is newer, but those who are using it have reported back that it's very, very useful. And there are also books. I happen to have one right here. These study books So we get lots of, we try to ask, our candidates also at the end of their program will take the RICA, which is the Reading Instruction Competency Assessment. So we're always trying to find out which books they like and that seem most useful. So we've been told the Cliff's Notes CSET multiple subject is a really helpful guide that goes into the test taking strategy that Dr. O'Keefe mentioned, as well as the content of the 3 subtests. So yeah, but yeah, we try to gather as much information from everybody about like what worked for you. And it's always different from person to person, but we try to get all those resources so we can share them with you so you can be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Asia. Is there a way that students can access those? Is there like a loaning service, or do we know if they're available at our SSU library?
That I'm not sure of. I don't know. Suzanne, if you know.
That's a really great question, Teresa. I have no idea if they're at the library at this point. I know that so the live workshop that we do is based on a lot of the questions that you're going to find from these resources. But there are multiple resources, and so a lot of them are just, you can get them used online, or sometimes people share resources, but not that we don't have a lending system at this time. But it's certainly something to take back to Puerta and say, hey, is this something that we can get up and running? So that's great feedback, and I'll definitely bring that to Dr. Estrada when I meet with her next.
Great.
And in normal times, the library did have copies of those resources. I know that several students did communicate that they were able to get them from the library. But as the pandemic is with us, the library is not open. But you can find them at bookstores. I believe the local libraries as well have them. So they're pretty much everywhere.
That's great. Good. Are there any questions about the CBEST? Because I know a couple people were wondering about the CBEST, and I'm just wondering if there are any that are here. I'm wondering if there are any further questions about it. Is the CBEST something that students need to take all at once, or can they take different parts at a time?
I can answer that.
Okay.
You can take, it really depends on the student whether they feel they are ready to take them all at once. We, of course, do not recommend that they do, because you are timed. So if you take one test, one part of the test, you can. The only thing that you have to be aware of is that every time you take it, you have to pay. So it's not that you pay for it once and you can take it as many times. Mm-hmm. So it's up to the candidate. We don't recommend that they be taken all at the same time. But again, it's up to the candidate, and you do have to pay every time you take it.
Okay, great. So some people do strategize and perhaps break it in 2 or 3 parts. Okay, but knowing that the fee is there each time. Okay, good. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, mostly for people who may be watching the recording of this, and who are perhaps still in their first or second years of their undergraduate studies, is one way to not need to take the CSET, so the subject matter competency exam, is to actually be part of a subject matter waiver program as part of your undergraduate degree. So I bring that up because I'm a professor in the English subject matter waiver program. And so a number of students who are here today, Andre, who's already graduated from that program, Maya, who will be graduating soon, Delilah and Edith, are part of the English single subject waiver program. And so going through taking the courses that are required, having, I think the GPA is a 3.0, makes it so that you actually don't need to take the CSAT exam. So for people who are kind of still starting out and thinking about teaching and may feel really overwhelmed about taking some of these tests, that is a good way to not need to take at least this one. And also the courses are really geared to becoming future educators. And so we really start to think about the subject matter through that lens. And so the preparation is kind of already in place for developing orientations and practices of teaching. And Chloe, I see you're nodding as well. And you said you're in the liberal studies waiver program. Yeah.
Well, the second track, but I guess some of the classes qualify as part of the waiver program.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
familiar.
I know there's a waiver program there, but I don't know which track it is. So maybe you're not, but yeah, so
For
there's
sure, the students in the blended program are automatically in the waiver program. And those who are not, so like track 2, they would have to check with the department to see if they are on track or if they need additional classes. But it's not automatic for track 2.
Oh,
Thank
okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Andre, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to report or go off of what you were talking about as far as I guess the class being a bridge to how we learn with the curriculum. I love 492, I believe it was, and 496. It segues right into going into the credential program. You're learning about unit plans. You're learning about the core standards, the ELA core standards. Everything in those classes pertain to what you're going to be doing in the material that you're going to be teaching. It was very beneficial and useful, the teacher's instructions and the things that we were learning, because I was able to know more about how to teach my students. And I think that's why those classes are important. I'm trying to specific, the goals, the objectives, the core standards, the syllabus, all those things were learned in those classes, and they helped me form my learning segment. So just wanted to say thank those classes and thank you, Professor.
Gladly. Yeah. Yeah, they're really fun for me to teach, and my current students are doing really great work developing sets or groups of texts, and thinking about how we bring different texts together: nonfiction, fiction, visual texts, videos, and all kinds of things that we can think about language arts through, and then we'll be developing curriculum units as the second part of the semester, building upon those groups of texts. So it's a really fun, definitely like that, as you're pointing out, Andre, like intermediate kind of moving from thinking about English as content and then really getting into how do we think about it as practitioners. Yeah. I could try and list the different subject matter waiver programs, but I might miss some. Maricela, are you able to share what all of those are across campus?
Sure. At Sonoma State, we have the English subject matter waiver, music, math, and the multiple subject. Those are the only ones that we have at this point. I know that certain departments are in the works of working with a foundational science waiver as well as the Spanish waiver, but those are, again, they're in the works. I don't know when we will have them. I do see a question in the chat from Chloe. How soon do we have to take these tests before going into the credential program? Very good question, Chloe. The sooner you can take those exams, the better, just because, the availability, particularly now, is very minimal. And we don't know how things are going to move forward after fall of 2021. So there are some exceptions that were made by the Chancellor's Office and the state of California for those exams. So anyone applying for fall of 2021 do not have to have the exams met. But we in the school are encouraging everybody to try to take them as soon as they can. In normal times, if you're applying for the fall semester, then you want to try to have them met by no later than April. And then for the spring semester, you want to try to have them met by no later than November, December. So, you kind of have to plan it accordingly. And the sooner you get those exams out of the way, then it's just easier for you to move forward through the program.
Absolutely. And I just want to jump in there as well and say, we have people who are conditionally admitted and in the program taking their exams, and it's a lot to juggle. And it's doable, but it certainly does put more pressure on our students. So, as Maricela said, the more proactive you are, it's just going to be an easier time for you when you are in the credential program, and you can really focus on getting your skill set up in the classroom. So we encourage that.
Yeah, great. Any other questions?
I just wanted to add too, if there are any folks in the room and or watching the recording who are interested in the added authorization for bilingual education, there's also a pathway of courses or a combination of courses and CSETs. There are different ways to obtain that if you're interested in that as well, in addition to your multiple subject and single subject credential.
Mm-hmm. And Maricela, would you be the best person for people to contact about that? Or
I can give general information. The authorization is, it's an authorization bilingual in Spanish that is available to any credential, so multiple, single, and special ed. And give you, or anyone any basic information, but the advisor for the bilingual added authorization is Dr. Brianna Casesa.
okay.
So that's something they want to reach out to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, perfect. Any other questions or concerns about the exams or anything related, since we have a lot of experts here who know about the credential process and the different types of credentials that are offered at SSU and that can lead to a teaching career working with special education students, working with elementary students, working with middle or high school students. And I know we also have a few, Andre, who is doing his student teaching right now to become a single subject English language arts teacher. I've been an English language arts teacher, and Asia has been an elementary teacher. I'm not sure, Suzanne, have you worked with, okay, yeah.
I was a special ed teacher. Yeah, I've been
Okay.
for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
One thing I would like to say, if you're in those waiver programs, in those classes, and I'm sorry to dump more stuff on you, I don't think they want to tell you until you're into the credential program. But there's this thing called the EdTPA that I'm dealing with right now and focusing on. And I just want to say, pay attention to what they're teaching you, because that's what the EdTPA is. They just want to know that you can talk about teaching and assess your own teaching. And so as long as you're paying attention to how you can build a lesson unit in those classes, you'll be fine. So EdTPA, do some research on that right now. Sorry.
No, thanks, Andre. It's right. It's important to be a reflective practitioner, right? Like that's the ideal that we have, right? We deliver a lesson and then we think, okay, what went well? What did my students tell me went well? Where are some things where I see a lot of people are missing it that I know I need to reteach that, right? Like that's that important process, right? And really being attuned to how our lessons are working for our students. Yeah, so thank you. That is part of the credential process.
I'll
Yeah.
add too that so in multiple subject we do the Cal TPA, which is very similar to the Ed TPA in structure, and
Mhm.
they're both. And I believe special ed might be they're developing a Cal TPA for special education right now,
Mm.
and the intention, they're all performance assessments. So unlike CBEST, CSET, and others that are these sit-down multiple choice exams and assessments, these are really actually assessments of your teaching. You're videotaping yourself, you're writing, reflecting, as Andre said, a lot of the things that you're already doing in the coursework. So it's a very different type of assessment. And obviously to get your credential, you have to do a little of both. Some of these sort of standardized, sit down, choose A, B, C, D, but you also get to a point where you're actually doing you're getting assessed on what you're intending to do. But I think that's a really great point, that the coursework and in the waiver program and elsewhere, obviously the credential programs themselves are intended to help you and support you, so that when you get to that point, you feel ready to analyze and reflect on your teaching and student work and all of those things that are part of teaching practice.
Mhm.
And to add on, the HCPA is much funner because you have the hold of the creative lesson. You're creating your own lesson, things that you have envisioned for years that you want to relay on to students. So the best advice I can give as far as being in the credential program is start knowing right now what you want to teach, and why, because that's like important, and that's what they're going to be assessing you on and questioning you about.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. And then I see we have a question from Maya in the chat. If you wanted to get a TFL or TSL, TESOL credential, do you have to have a single subject, multiple subject first? And do you have to be fluent in another language?
That is actually, I'm just thinking about the TESOL, TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. That is not a credential, and you do not have to have a credential in order to get that certificate. That certificate, though, does not allow you to teach at the public school level, so TK through 12th grade, it does not allow you to do that. It's mainly for adults. What you can do, though, even though the credentials that all of you will be earning does have, they all have the English learner authorization that allows you to teach English learners, does not allow you to teach solely ELD classes, okay, or ESL as they were before. If you want to be able to do that, you would have to take the CTEL exam so that you are able to teach a standalone ELD class. And for that, you do have to have a prior credential. So, and for that, you do have to be bilingual, as I understand it, but not in a very specific language, at least for the ELD certification. If you want to do the bilingual authorization, that gives you a whole other set of authorization, to teach. That would be in Spanish as well. So yes, you do have to be bilingual, I guess the short answer would be.
Did that answer your question, Maya? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right. There's so many different possibilities, right, with where we can teach and, how and what and why. So yeah, that's a great question.
Something I just wanted to add, and I know you're getting a lot of information thrown at all of you, and as far, you're just thinking about the one credential, but something that we also have at Sonoma State is the ability to get more than one credential. And so there are times where you may start off wanting to be in the multiple subject program and you get your credential, and then you say, hey, I'd actually want to maybe just teach math at a middle school, and then you're able to take additional classes. You wouldn't have to do the entire program because there is a common trunk there. We have certain classes that we all kind of take or that hit certain standards, and so you'd be taking additional classes but not an entire program. Same thing for the special education credential. It's very common for folks to get their general education credential and then start teaching and just say, if I've experienced children in my classroom who have special needs, I've got a connection, it just feels like the right fit, I'd like to be a special education teacher. And again, they come to us, they don't have to do an entire program, and then you're able to get your second credential on top of that. Some of our credential programs, like the single subject and the special education program, you can actually become interns, which means that you can be fully hired by a district, have a full-time teaching job, be the actual teacher of record while you are obtaining your second credential. And sometimes first credential, depending on if you're solely going into the special ed program or single subject. But the point is that you could be teaching full time while you're getting your degree. So there is a lot of different opportunities for not only what credential you can walk away with, but how many credentials you can walk away with, and the pathway you're going to take to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
I'd add that too. Oh, sorry, Tessa.
Go ahead. I was
just going to say this is sort of down the line and maybe in the far future, but you also may, if you're interested in pursuing a master's degree, we often have, credential graduates who have been teaching for a while and they come back to us for a master's, and they often embed another credential in that coursework because they're required to do, 30 plus units. And so there's room for those requirements to be built in and added on to their existing credential. And then also Dr. O'Keefe mentioned internships. I know for multiple and single subject, depending on your area, we also have residency programs where you are connected to the district in a different way than our traditional student teaching program, and also can receive a stipend and get some financial support while you're student teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
And so I would say the takeaway here is that as you are getting advised into your program, as Andre was saying, just be really clear about, what are your goals for the future? What do you want to teach and why? And really think, down the line, because you could, if you have a really clear view of where, what you want to teach and where you want to end up, then your advisor will help you get there in the most streamlined way that'll work for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right. These are the important questions, right? Like, what do we want to teach? Why? Who do we want to serve? Who do we want to be in community with, right? And that can really be clarifying questions to help us do that. Yes. So glad you're able to join us, Delilah. Yeah, it is time for us to finish up. Thank you, Arturo, for being here. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Edith. I'm really glad you were able to make it. Super happy that we were able to share all of this information. Want to point out that next week we'll have our critical education session. Oops, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Are you all seeing the critical education session? Yeah, okay. So that's next week on Thursday from 12 to 1, talking about celebrating our languages in the classroom, translanguaging. And you can find more information about that on our Instagram account at SSU_EDUCORE. So thanks so much, everyone. Really glad that you're able to join us today.
Have a good day, everybody. Thank you for coming and love the energy.